Hi everyone. So this is my mini vlog review for Wicked. So I saw it last night at I think it's one of the special pre-screenings here in Toronto because it officially premieres internationally on the 22nd. So normally I would do like these mini vlog reviews on my way home from the cinema, but I decided to do it this morning because I wanted to talk a little bit longer than I generally would for like these mini vlog reviews. So Wicked, this is Wicked Part 1. Because the film is broken up into two parts, and I'm going to explain why that actually bothers me. Though it does have its good points, I'll explain why that bothers me a little bit later when I talk about my cons of this film. Normally I like to talk about cons first and then I'll do pros. I'm going to do pros first because things that bother me with this film is something that's bothering me with the film industry in general, and I find this film as indicative of everything, that is, well, not everything, probably like 80% of the problems that I have in Hollywood now. So I'll try not to make this too long, but it's going to be longer than I generally do because I usually try to stick to the 2 minutes and 20 seconds to get for a Twitter post. But I'm going to put this on Instagram Reels as well. So what I'll just do is I'll cut it into like sections for like Twitter or whatever. So Wicked. So this is the film screen adaptation of the 2003 original Broadway play starring Christian Chenoweth, who I love, as Glinda, and Idina Menzel as Elphaba. And so this film version stars Ariana Grande as Glinda and Cynthia Ervio as Elphaba. And it's directed by John M. Chu, who people would know, who directed Crazy Rich Asians, as well as the film adaptation of In the Heights, which is the stage play musical written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. So I actually really like this film. I have never seen the Broadway play. I've seen clips of it. I've heard the music because, as I said, I love Christian Chenoweth's music, and like sometimes I play her music. I just like put on a YouTube playlist her music, so I'm familiar with the music. So like I'm familiar with Popular and Defying Gravity. Like we've heard Defying Gravity played in like different shows. I believe it was sung on Glee. But that's most of what I know of it, and I knew about the premise of it, of the play and everything. So this is an adaptation, and it's split. The film is split up into two parts. So the second part is going to premiere next year. They're waiting a whole year to release part 2, which I think is absurd. 6 months, fine. Like they could release it in spring, early summer. There's no need to delay it by a year. That's again something I'm going to talk about in my con section. But I really enjoy the film. Is extremely well produced. In the songs are, if you know the songs, like there's nothing wrong with the songs. They're all perfect. They're like typical music, Broadway musical production songs, but they're all very good. Cynthia is phenomenal. To me, she owns this film. This film is hers. Johnathan Bailey, who plays Fiyero, they're the love interest of both Glinda and Elphaba. He's really good. He's very charming. He's different to how we know him from Bridgerton. This one, he's like, he's not worrying about the rules of like the ton. He's more charismatic in this one. He's dancing, he's singing, so he's more and he's very as charming as usual, but he's giving more outward sexual appeal to almost everyone he meets. And Ariana as Glinda, she's good. She has good comedic timing. We all know she can sing. I'm going to talk about that though. And I think she has like really good chemistry with Cynthia. And the set production is stunning. Like the costume designers, everyone who worked on the costuming in the costume departments, in the set production departments, the sound editing, the lighting, all of that is like really wild. It's like excellent. I wouldn't call it the best musical film adaptation I've seen. And again, that's going to go into my cons because it's actually, I'm going to have to make a comparison to other musicals, of course, like the original Wizard of Oz, other musicals from like the 30s and 40s and 50s in Hollywood. But generally, overall, I really did enjoy the film. I saw the film with my friend Jody, and she loved it. She says she doesn't like musicals, but she said she really enjoyed this, and so that was a pleasant surprise for her. I love musicals. I grew up watching musicals, so I enjoyed that aspect of the film. I really enjoyed it. And I think, again, Cynthia, this is her film. It really is. And I did a little bit of research. I was reading upon like how the story came to be. So I know it was an adaptation of a book that was kind of done like as a prequel sequel to the original Wizard of Oz book, the one that was adapted into the 1939 play musical, with Judy Garland, so I knew a bit about that history, but I never really knew the exact details of the plot. So I did some reading upon that, because something that bothers me, not just only with this film, but these particular type of stories where you have someone who's being bullied, it's being treated, discriminated against, being judged by all of these strangers, and it's a setting usually done in like a setting like a school, and no one sees their humanity because they're outwardly judged immediately because of how they look, whether they're disabled, whether they are the odd kid out, like in this case, Alphabet's green, and everyone immediately judges her because she is different. And I have a problem with these kind of stories because the people only see their humanity when the other protagonist, in this case Glinda, sees their humanity after tormenting them, spending time tormenting them. It's like something happens and like, oh, Glinda, she gives the hat to Alphaba. And of course this is not a spoiler because this play has been around since 2003 and the book since the mid 1900s. So I mean the original book. So like this is not a spoiler. So she gives Alphaba this hideous hat that was made for her, and so Alphaba wears it to the Ozdas party, which is like a party of their school, like an underground party kind of thing, and like she's being defiant. She's like, I'm going to like own this space, and so she's doing it, and like Cynthia's brilliant in the scene where she's performing, she's dancing, and without music because the music stopped, and so she begins to cry, and then Glinda sees her humanity, like, oh my gosh, everyone is staring at her. I feel so bad because I'm the one who gave her this ugly hat. And then she dances with her. And I'll be honest, I hate those kind of storylines because this is, again, my personal experience from being bullied in school. You are not my friend. I don't care. I don't care if you see my humanity because you finally, oh my God, she's a human being just like me. You're not going to become my friend. You're not going to become my bestie. I don't want you to help make me popular. This is another aspect that is very popular in storylines with this, especially between women and female characters, where I somehow ended up going into my cons. But this is kind of a pro in the performances, how the performances make it work in a way. But I hate these storylines with a passion. Like, you tormented me. You bullied me. I do not want you to be my friend. I don't want you to help make me popular. I don't want you to take my glasses off. Oh my God, all of a sudden I'm beautiful because I'm not wearing the thing that I need to help me see. But then, in these kind of shows, you don't really need it to help you make you see. You're hiding behind your glasses as a shield as a shield for your insecurity. I hate these kind of storylines. This is just in general. So I'm not blaming the film as the story, but I just hate these storylines in general. I'm going to have to go there because I just wish people would stop with these stories. I really wish they would. Your bully is not your friend. If someone can't see your humanity on the outset, you don't need a special circumstance for them to help you, for them to see it, afterwards, And in this case, there's Nesta Rose, who is Alphaba's sister, her younger sister, and she's disabled. She uses a wheelchair, and she's completely accepted. But here's the trick: in this case, Alphaba's skin color is her disability. This is the thing that she's judged on. This is the thing that people see as being wrong with her. So you can you can transition her from being black, from being green, to being judged for being black, to being judged for being Muslim, to being judged for being disabled, to being judged for being like free and accepting of who she is, So you can take that and switch it around, and the story is ultimately about the relationship between Glinda and Alphaba is basically we became friends because I saw your humanity after tormenting you for months and months, And I'm so tired of those storylines. I really, really am. That aside. So, as I said, the film, overall, I enjoyed it. Because, mainly Cynthia Ervio. Johnathan Bailey. They have really good chemistry as well. I think Johnathan Bailey is the kind of performer who puts so much of himself into his performances. He makes sure that he makes his co-stars comfortable around him, so like you're able to get chemistry and read it from them on screen, and it works, you know, like because Alphaba, she loves him from a distance because she believes he'll never love her for her because he has a more perfect iteration, which is Glinda, you know, and but he sees her as her from the beginning, you know, the get-go. Like their first interaction is funny. Like they meet out at night in the dark, and she blends into the foliage, and there's this line where he's like, oh, I didn't see you because you kind of look like the foliage. And that was genuinely funny. I will say the film is genuinely funny, and of course that has a lot to do with the screenplay by Winnie Holzman and Dana Fox, and I believe Winnie Holzman worked on the original stage production. So you know, the film does have that very Broadway and very musical sense of comedy and comedic timing, like where the comedic beats come in. So the film does have that. So this dialogue works really well. The actors do a really good job of like getting those comedic beats. Ariana, she has her comedic beats are a little bit more obvious. You know, she does this thing, she's like and I get that's who Glinda is. That's the character. But I will say, like, my problem when you have these kind of films where these kind of casts, there are some actors that when people cast celebrities to play specific roles where you can't help but see who they really are. I can't help but see this as Ariana Grande playing dress up. I can't. Cynthia, I completely bought her as Alphaba because she just immerses herself in this role. She makes this role her own. You know, like I've seen her other films and stuff, and I've seen her like other productions of her singing and stuff, and she makes everyone different, you know, like, and I don't see her playing one character and singing one way and singing as another character the exact same way. I, however, think Ariana was kind of copying Kristin Chenoweth, and I'm not necessarily going to blame her for that. I'm going to blame the direction of that, and as well as the musical and acting direction of that. Because if you're familiar with how Kristin Chenoweth acts, you look at that and you see Ariana, and it's just like, I'm like, the entire time I was thinking, make this character your own. Stop trying to be Kristin, you know. As well as if you're familiar with Ariana's work, she is a Disney actress. She grew up in the Disney pipeline. That's what I also saw. I saw a Disney actress who grew up in the Disney system. I saw her character that she played in that Disney show giving a performance of Kristin Chenoweth. The entire time I just kept saying, make this your own character. Because even the way she was singing was Kristin Chenoweth. And this is going to start going to my first main con of this film. When you first watch this film, the very first opening number is Glinda coming in and making the announcement that Alphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West, has died. And so there's this song she's singing. And I can't tell you anything but the first two words of the song. Because why? Her diction is atrocious. And I have auditory processing issues. So I honestly thought to myself, is it my ears? Are my ears like acting up? So I leaned next to my friend Jody and I said, do you understand what she's saying? And Jody's like, no. I was okay, so it's not just me. Her addiction in the first song is horrible. You don't understand anything she's saying at all. And part of the problem is because she's so focused on making the high falsetto notes, she's not worrying about her diction, you know, and her enunciation. And that happens a few other times in the film. There's times where like her diction is very clear, and then there's other times where her diction is very garbled, or you can't really understand what she's saying. And you can tell a lot of it is because she's so focused on hitting these super high notes that she hits beautifully. Like, she has amazing range, but it's just like, I don't understand what you're saying. And if you don't know the lyrics to the songs, you won't understand. Like Popular, there's some parts of Popular where you don't, the only reason you're able to decipher what the lyrics are is because you know the song, you know. And then there's other songs where like the chorus, the main chorus, the bigger cast is singing, you know, singing the chorale parts, and her voice, like you can tell the difference between people who are trained to enunciate and trained to sing for musical productions versus someone who's trained to sing as a solo artist and who sings a very particular style as a solo artist. And it comes through very clear in this film, very clear. And the thing is, when you have because I've been in choirs too, You know, I've sung in choirs back home in Barbados. And the thing with choirs, you have to, each voice is distinct because everybody's voice is very unique. But when you're blending, you have to make sure you blend. You know, you can be able to pick up maybe individual voices, but you still have to blend as a chorus. And in blending, you have to make sure that the enunciation of each word is precise, because you need to be able to hear what you're saying. Because when you have a big mass choir, like, words can actually disappear, you know, if everyone is not singing the same way with regards to pronunciation. Especially when you have all the different parts. We have bass, tenor, alto, soprano, falsetto, you know, like descant, you know. And so you have all of these, and for these musical numbers, you can hear every single word being sung correctly and precisely. With Cynthia, you can hear every single word clearly and precisely. Johnathan, same exact way. Ariana, not so much, and I wish they had spent time on working with her pronunciation and her enunciation of these songs. And two other people that the same thing happens with, Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum. Michelle Yeoh is cast as Madame Marble. Ariana pronounced it as Madame Marble. I thought that was the name of the character, Madame Marble, Marble. I only realized it was Madame Marble when I looked up the details of the play, like the names and the details of the characters and stuff. And I'm like, oh wait, it's Marble as in horrible, but with an M, Morrible. And I'm like, that's not what Ariana was saying in the entire film. She said Marble, the entire film. And also, in speaking about pronunciation and singing, Michelle Yeoh is not a singer. She is not. And she is not. And there's a couple moments in the song where, you know, like in musicals, like you kind of start talking, you transition into singing. She doesn't really go full on singing because, like, she knows her limitations as well. But I also wish that that John M. Chu had realized her limitations as well and said, you know what, let's change this up a bit. And instead of having her sing talk dialogue, we just have her talk it, because it was actually distracting for me. Again, this is just how I experienced it, and it took me out of the moment, you know. And same thing with Jeff Goldblum, not a singer, talked, and transition from talking to singing didn't really work, and his voice was pitchy, was very all over the place, very unstable, and that can throw you off when you're in a production where you have people like Cynthia Ervio and Johnathan Bailey and other professionals, performers and singers singing their behinds off. It kind of like throws you off where the people who are the main actors aren't meeting that level, you know. And then another con with this film that bothers me is what I call stunt casting. This is where you have a film, and you bring on actors simply because they're popular. Ironic, because the film has a song called Popular. But it's like, it's stunt casting. You cast them because you know it's going to get a reaction from the audience. You know, you cast Michelle Yeoh because, yes, she won an Oscar. But of course, this was filmed before she won her Oscar. But you bring on Michelle Yeoh because you had her in your film Crazy Rich Asians. And then you should ask yourself, but can she actually play a whole new character, or is she going to just play a variation of the character you cast her in for Crazy Rich Asians, which is what this was. She played herself, you know. She played the character she played in Crazy Rich Asians. If you've seen Star Trek Discovery, where she played there was Empress Georgiou, and then Captain Georgiou. She played the version that is Empress Georgiou. You know, that whole like, I'm going to pretend to be your friend, but I'm actually a villain kind of storyline. Act the character, like, be someone completely different. I don't want to be able to, like, look at you and be able to point it that the character you're playing is exactly a character you played in another film. Jeff Goldblum has completely given up on acting, which is like immersing yourself in a brand new character and giving something completely new to this character. I use Johnathan Bailey as an example. He has played Charming in Bridgerton, but it's a completely different way. You know, when in Wicked, his version of Charming and the way he plays Fiora is not the same he plays the character in Bridgerton. You know, that's it. You know, you can play a charming character, but you can play in completely different ways. Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Boeing Yang. Boeing Yang basically just did a SNL skit. His character is the characters he plays on SNL. catty, and took me out every time he turned up on screen, because all I'm seeing is Bowen Yang. And why is all I'm seeing is Bowen Yang? Because he's playing a character that I see him play on Saturday Night Live. He didn't add anything new. He didn't try to make this character. The costuming, the hair, the glasses that he wore didn't distract from that. It just highlighted it, because again, that's not a character. This is something that I wish Hollywood directors would stop doing. Stop stunt casting people just because you know that they're popular or that you worked with them, and you're not directing them in a way to make them bring something new to this new project, where they're not being a whole new character. And that took me out every single time. Jeff Goldblum, Bowen Yang, Michelle Yeoh, Ariana to some extent, because again, like, I understand what the character of Glinda is, but Ariana, she's playing the white ingenue. The other thing that bothered me with Ariana's casting with regards to everyone else is much older than her. They're much older than her, and they're supposed to be around the same age range, especially Johnathan and Cynthia and Bowen and the other actors who make up the other students in the school. It's kind of disorienting to see someone who looks like at least 10-15 years younger than everyone else around her, and they're all supposed to be in the same age range at this school. It throws you off. It threw me off, and that only gets highlighted by the fact that she has the blonde hair. Her costuming is different because she wears like a lot of pinks and a lot of pastel lilacs, and Cynthia's in the greens and the blacks and the teals, and the other school students are in the uniform is like a teal and a light blue, and then there's like the Munchkins, which is orange and teal, so everyone looks much older than her, so that kind of throws me off, and it was kind of weird. And then another thing with the casting is the Munchkins are not Munchkins. I'm 5 feet. I know what a Munchkin looks like. Everyone that is in that film, including the Munchkins, is average height. Taller, The Munchkins are not Munchkins. Munchkins are supposed to be super short. I would be considered a Munchkin. I'm 5 feet. My sister's 4'11". Munchkin height, that kind of height, are lower. Everyone in this film is average height. They're the main character, and Baku is a Munchkin, who is the love interest of Nessa Rose, and who's in love with Glinda. He is supposed to be a Munchkin, and I saw him stand up, and I'm like, and then I saw the other Munchkins. I'm like, those are not Munchkins. I'm like, John, try to get some shorter. I'm sure that try. You mean you couldn't find any 5 foot tall singers people you could have cast to play the Munchkins? Seriously? No 4'5", no 4'4", no gymnasts. Gymnasts are Munchkin height. You couldn't find any to play the Munchkins. And again, that may seem trivial, but it's just like, if you're spending so much money and spending so much time on the details like that matter. Details on like who you cast matters, and why you cast them matters. Okay, and in speaking about the money and the detail. So my other issue with this film, this video is kind of going on longer than I expected and I was planning to. I'm going to try to cut it off soon. Excess. That's the main word. If anyone was to ask me to surmise this film in one word, it would be excess. In excess of so much money. This film cost $145 million to produce, so they say. That's the budget they claim. I am kind of getting tired of all of these multi-million dollar films, and not 20, 30, 40 million, $145 million for this film. And yes, you can see it on screen. But when I see things like that, I just think we had, again, like the old films, like the original Wizard of Oz films like Sound of Music, Gone with the Wind, which at the time it was the most expensive film at the time. But films like Gone with the Wind, where the budget economics was different, but still, and other musicals and other films in the 70s, 60s, whatever, that have stunning production value and are nowhere near this expensive. And then the other thing is like, when you put all of this on screen, costume design, and again, I'm not blaming the costumers, I'm blaming the director and the production designer, because what people need to understand, when you're putting something on screen, even if it's shot in IMAX, whatever, there's so much going on. All the details you want to add, all these layers kind of get lost, and it becomes pointless. When you have like 10 layers in a film, the human eye can only pick up maybe like the first 3-4 layers. Everything after that is just background noise. It's just visual noise, and your brain isn't processing it, and it's like, why, And then I just kept thinking, all of this money going into this production stuff, how much were the production crews paid? How much were the seamstresses in the costume departments paid? How much were all of these dancers paid? And I'm just wondering how much of this budget went to playing these stars, like Michelle Yeoh, Jeff Goldblum, Ariana Grande, because she is a Grammy Award-winning actress. How much of the budget went to them? Then how much of the budget went to the director? Then how much of the budget went to the production? And I just kept thinking, this film is excessive. And there's a way you can do extravagant without looking excessive and looking gaudy to a point. Think Bollywood films. Bollywood films do have these extravagant set designs and set locations and all this, and like nothing gets lost in translation, in visual translation. Like you can still see everyone dancing. They have like these huge, amazing dance productions and stuff, and like nothing gets lost visually because they know how to do put a limit on the excess, on the extravagance. This film had none of that. And while I understand, especially like for Oz, like like excess and extravagance and stuff, but it was just it became to a point where I'm just like, we don't need all of this. Part of all of that is that there's the dance numbers and stuff, and then with all these dancers, you have all of these background actors, all of these performers who are all wearing these visually these costumes that are all just visual art to take in. And there's something, and I'm trying to remember, I'm trying to pick a film as an example, but I remember I watched this documentary once on stage production, and I remember like the person that was speaking was saying, what you do generally is the people in the front would have the most details because they're the ones right up to the camera, but the further back you go, the less details you need on the costumes, right? And I remember I also oh my gosh, Ruth E. Carter also told me that. I interviewed her once for when Black Panther was released, and she also told me that, because I remember I asked her about like the scenes where the people in Wakanda, like you get all of the details, this minute details and all this stuff for the people up front, like the Dormalage, like T'Challa's outfits, like the Kia's outfits, all these have like all these really small details because the camera's going to pick them up because they're right in front of center. But the further back you go, like for like the background actors, the supporting characters, the less details you need. This film needed to take that lesson, because when you have everyone, and as I said, like going like 10 layers of visual information with all of these details, is visually overwhelming. But then I just kept thinking, how much of these costumes are going to be worn again? And again, this might seem like something trivial to people, but these are the things that I think about as a film critic and a journalist when I'm watching a film, and I intend to talk about. I try to pay as much attention as possible to different details so that I can talk about them. And this is something I talked about. I thought about watching a film, and I thought about last night because I really wanted to figure out what I wanted to say for this. And again, this is going to go way longer than I expected. I apologize. But I just thought about all of that. I'm just thought $145 million. No film needs to be $145 million. There's a way that you can get extravagant without being excessive. And excessive to the point it just is distracting. Especially in the economic times that we're in right now. And then into my final time, excessive time. This film is way too long. I'm looking up the exact. I was looking for the exact thing, but it's almost 3 hours long because the film started late. It started around 7:15 and it ended at 9:45. This film is way too long. No film needs to be over 2 hours long. I am so tired of Hollywood directors making films that are over 2 hours long when they don't need to be. Like, I was reading on Wikipedia, like John M. Chu on the production, they were saying, we didn't want to cut anything, we wanted to make sure that we give time for the audience to get to know the characters. People know who these characters are from reading the books and watching the stage play. You should be able to write a film that is 1.5 hours long, especially if you know you're going to make a 2-parter, in a way that we get to know the characters and the without making it excessively long. You know, again, excess, unnecessary additions, things that are unnecessary, time limit. This film is way too long. There are things that could be cut, and you don't lose the essence of the film. You don't lose the essence of the story. You don't lose the essence of the characters. And then to think the next film is going to be around the same. So we're going to have what, about 5.5 hours of one film, complete story, and the original stage production was probably 2.5 hours. Maybe I was trying to look up the actual time, but I know like most stage plays productions are not that long. They're not like 3 hours, 2.5 hours. You know, and I'm just like, I'm so tired of these Hollywood films being like excessively long for no reason. I need filmmakers to get back to the economics of filmmaking, not just financially, but just time-wise. Economics. Think about your audience, especially when you're not adding intermissions. That was the beauty of other films in the 30s and the 40s and the 50s and 60s. We had intermission. Sound of Music is about 2.5 hours long, and you know what? They have an intermission. If these filmmakers are going to be like, you know, I'm going to make a film that's super long and I'm going to cut it into 2 parts, put an intermission. Like, I'm so tired of these films. And I'm not even sure if I'm even going to watch the second part in the cinema, because just the thought of having to sit through something like this again, I'm so tired of these films. Anyway, I'm gonna wrap up now. I apologize, as I said, I didn't intend for it to be this long. So this is obviously also gonna go on my YouTube channel. But again, thank you so much everyone who watched this, and I hope you appreciate my comments. As I said, the film isn't horrible. I actually enjoyed it. Like, it's very funny. Again, that's thanks to the writing with regards to like the comedic beats and everything. Cynthia Ervio owned this film. Like, this is her. Johnathan Bailey was charming, very entertaining. Ariana, I think, did a serviceable job. She was very good. She had good chemistry with Cynthia, but the singing for some of her parts took me out. And then there's this thing where the way she was just standing and moving the entire time, I just wanted to say, sweetie, relax. Sit in the pocket. Sit in your character. But I enjoyed it. Would I go and sit down and see it in a cinema ever again? No, because my time is way too valuable, and I like to be able to pause and get up and walk away. But that's it. I'm not going to grade it. I don't like grading films and that kind of stuff, but that's it for me. So bye.